In this part of our tutorial series, we're going to introduce character variables in the iOS platform. So we're going to do this by declaring and initializing some characters and giving them values, and then later on changing them in the code. So what we're going to do is we're going to discuss what kind of values characters can take on, and then we will talk about when we would use characters versus other types of variables. This part of our tutorial will deal with variables of type character. Now these are single-digit variables that can take on pretty much any value we assign to them. Now what I mean by single-digit is this. So let's create a variable of type character. Let's call it character. And what I mean by single-digit is that it can contain, for example, only one value or one character. It can't be, for example, if we had this, the double character, it would only recognize the final character here. So it wouldn't recognize the A at all. Now all characters are recognized as being between these single quotation marks, but not the double quotation marks. That's a string, and we'll talk about that a little later. So characters, again, between these single quotation marks and only one unit in length. Now, I have here a letter in these quotation marks. However, we can also have, let's call this character 1, let's have a character 2, and let's have this take on a numerical value. And let's create another one, and we'll call this character 3, and we'll have this take on, let's say, a star. So all three of these are appropriate, and they're fine to be classed as characters, because once they're between these quotation marks, the compiler doesn't recognize them as, for example, a number 1 or a letter A or the multiplication operator. It just recognizes them as a single digit character. So if we go ahead and print out any of these, so let's print out, let's say this is character, let's print out characters 2 and 3. And that's because we know that character A seems like a reasonable character to have. So I'll just go ahead and print out these two. So let's say run with, we'll say phone 5S. And we know this one's not used, but that's fine because we're pretty sure this is going to be a character. If we want some validation, we can print out later. So we get a 1 here and a star here, meaning that these are fine to be classed as characters. Now if we wanted to create characters that were multiple units in length, so for example we wanted this, let's say character 4, and we said this was ABC, for example, it's of length 3, then we would have to create what we'll call an array, a character array. See, right here we get the parse error, too many characters, oh, just disappeared there, too many characters in character literal, because it can only be of length 1. If we wanted to have multiple characters, again we'd have to create an array, but that's a different topic for a different video. So this is characters, again, 1 unit in length, between the single quotations, and can be anything from letters to numbers to symbols. In this part of the tutorial, I introduced the character variable. So to recap, a character can be a letter, number, or a symbol, as long as it's of length only 1 and between the single quotation marks. So these can be particularly useful for storing a symbol or a number or a letter in a variable of length only 1, because, for example, symbols in particular are often not recognized by the compiler, so it's useful to store them in a character variable, and then you can build arrays with them and use them as necessary. So by now you should be able to use characters appropriately, be able to assign them and print them out.